Brett, you
record
are
all the.
so on brand. He's over here sipping.
Hell, I need one.
I love it.
I need an espresso machine. Can someone
I
put that
actually
on
wanted
the?
to make a legit coffee, but we don't have any milk right now, so I just had to
Mm.
do an espresso.
I don't have any plugs in my kitchen, so I have to go buy my coffee.
You don't have any plugs in your kitchen?
No, it's wired.
You just don't have any. You just don't have any receptacles installed yet.
Well, my husband would have to finish the kitchen
How long is
before
that
the
house?
electrician could
How
come
long?
and
How
put
long has your
receptacles
house
in.
been under construction?
Like 4 years.
Okay.
That's all right.
That's what I
Like,
kind of thought. I was like, wait a second, you like still don't have
still don't. Saturday we were supposed to finish the kitchen. Do you think it happened?
any? No.
I had to get Starbucks for coffee, so I think the answer is clearly no, it did not happen. I still don't have a kitchen.
Okay, great.
But one day it'll be really pretty and dated by the time it gets done.
And
Be
dated.
ready for the next trend.
Welcome to Family Favorite, the podcast where we dive into our very different life's adventures while remembering that we're all tangled in the same dysfunctional family tree. Remember to never take yourselves too seriously because there's only room for one family favorite, and spoiler, it's probably not you. All right, let's dive in then to our start of the week and see what everybody has happening. So, anybody have anything fun happening inside your household this week? Anybody's kids been to the emergency room or the nurse's office?
No, I've just been anxious to hear all about Kurt's weekend, so that's how I plan on kicking this off.
I was going to wonder
I
if
didn't
it
even
was
want. I was
interest
trying
yet.
not to talk to him while we were in the lobby because I want to hear about it.
Where did Kurt travel to this weekend?
Oh,
He
And
was
with
in
whom
my
did he
backyard.
travel?
just another date to Charleston. I think it went better than the last one though.
Is she
She's from
responding
Charleston.
to your text messages this morning, or
Huh? No, 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 no.
no?
Yeah, it was fun. Just had a nice chill. It was good. I needed a weekend away from work and break. I had my phone on D&D like the whole weekend, which was really nice.
Okay.
It was a nice, relaxing weekend. Just kind of cupcaked all weekend. Got some good food.
Cupcaked?
Cupcaked, like couple stuff. Cupcake.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't know what that's a
No.
I've
thing.
never heard that term, but I like it. I mean that's
Yeah, when you're like cupcaking, you're just doing cute couple stuff.
okay.
Wow.
Hmm.
I've never heard of that.
Oh
I
gosh.
mean, I'm gonna find a way to use it.
I might have made it up. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's. I got it from
Just
somewhere.
made it up.
I don't know.
Okay.
Seems like
So,
Jeremy
something.
and I don't do cute couple things, so
Seems like something I
we
could
You
have.
dress alike though sometimes.
haven't cupcaked in a while.
No, but it was a good, relaxing weekend. She's got a lot of potential, so we'll see where it goes.
Potential.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Keep it going. I was hoping for more, but
T-
we hope.
Tara, the boys still baseball? I guess football now, right?
Football and baseball, yes. So no baseball this weekend. They had football. We're still undefeated. We're still crushing the season. We're doing good.
Is that what you're doing up here this weekend?
Baseball this weekend.
Oh,
They had this past weekend off. This coming weekend, Lincoln has a tournament, perfect game tournament in Charlotte. So it's like what they consider majors tournament. So I'm trying to think like when we were kids, they didn't have perfect game, like what that would be equivalent to. Like I don't know. It's just elite. It's travel ball, it's
AAU.
obnoxious.
Yeah, like
Probably the equivalent to that, but
yeah.
perfect game is like their own kind of like division.
Okay.
So you have to be considered a majors team, which would be like AAA.
Hmm.
is it's the next step up from that.
Kurt, the
So
way it works these days
it's
is
you basically pay to play. I
Pay to
feel
play.
yeah,
100%.
I was gonna say the way it works these days, if you and I had a great idea to go get a bunch of money from a bunch of sucker parents that think their kids are gonna be um in the
Exactly.
Hasn't it
major
always?
leagues, then you can organize something and parents will happily give you their money, and then you get them new uniforms, and then you get them nice trophies.
But do they happily give you their money, or do they give you their money with the strings attached that their child will play
Yeah.
in the appropriate amount of time that they want their child to play,
They
even
do
though their child has
begrudgingly.
2 left feet?
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Mhm.
But I can't speak for all travel ball, okay? But our organization, we make the parents sign a waiver, and it says we have like a code of conduct, and it says that your child will get fair but not equal playing time. So they have to earn their positions. We do tryouts, and you're not automatically you can't just say, oh, we're a majors team. You start off as like single A, and you compete in these tournaments, and then they rank you. The tournament directors rank you based on your stats. So it's not like you can just say, oh, we want to be a majors team. You have to be halfway decent. So
And none of the
within that,
parents have ever clapped back at that.
oh, they do. Yeah, they do every weekend.
Exactly. They
But
got a good racket
listen,
going
I've
on.
gone across the board because I've got one that'll sit the bench, like for a majority of the weekend, and I've got one that'll never come out of the game. So
Oh,
you can't. I can always say, hey, listen. At least I know my husband's coaching according to skill set. He doesn't play favoritisms. I can't speak for other coaches, but it is brutal and it does piss me off. But I just try to keep my mouth shut, and usually I stay on the fence, away from the bleachers.
Well, even if Tara's away from the bleachers, you still hear her.
You're still gonna
Well, you
hear.
can, but I'm saying
always.
that way I don't hear. That way I don't hear them, because if they start saying stuff, I'm just like, it's really hard to bite my tongue.
Yeah.
That's an impossibility.
Yeah. But no, now this is not, Jeremy's not coaching this. This is a coach that Lincoln has played for before. And we kind of like took 5 of our best kids, and he took 5 of his best kids, and we've consolidated to create this majors team.
Mm.
So should be competitive. Actually, supposedly we're going to get our brains bashed in, so should be fun.
Mm. That sounds fun.
Awesome.
See all these things you're missing out on, Kurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll be fine. I got plenty of time. If I got a young enough wife, it doesn't matter.
It's true. You just may be in a wheelchair going to the championship game, but
Yeah.
They'll be, as long as they're
You're
adult.
like,
They'll be adults by the time I croak. It'll be okay.
oh my God.
It's always good.
What's oh God. Bench warmers. What's the guy he plays like Bad Santa?
Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton. That's who you remind me that you're gonna be like, Kurt, just like smoking a cigarette.
Cussing out umpires.
Yeah, when you're like 50 with your 5-year-old. He
If I
10
if
for
I
life.
start
I mean,
at
she'll be
40,
smoking hot.
if I start at 40, I'll be 50 when he's 10, so it's okay. That's fine by me.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm good at starting at 40. I got 5 years.
you'll be fine.
That's good.
5 years. I mean, aren't you gonna be 36
Samantha.
in a minute? Semantics. Okay. Just
Yeah.
checking. What are your boys playing, Brett? Are we golfing on the weekends?
No, we wrapped up soccer for the 4-year-old, and we're about to start flag football for the 6-year-old, and I'm coaching that team
Flag football?
for flag
You're
football.
coaching flag football?
Flag football at the YMCA. The younger ages, I feel like I can be on the sidelines when they get older, though, I have trouble not coaching, and so I'm coaching, and it'll be always a little chaotic. But 6 and 7 year olds, they're like ready to be more organized and actually learn some skills and stuff. So we start that next week, and already started getting my Amazon purchases out of the way of all the things I want for them on the field, and
For flag football?
yeah,
Yeah.
What all sorts of things?
What do you have to buy
just
them?
like training aids and
Uh,
different things. Like I'm I'm big on like learning some fundamentals before you just go
Do they have to read a handbook before they join your team?
No, I do have a whiteboard though that I ordered.
Yeah,
Of course you
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So
I mean, that's
We had this conversation before though, because it is a good point. Like,
yeah. You should learn the fundamentals before you get on the field.
yeah, you don't waste a whole season and
yeah,
not have these kids learn anything. I mean, that's why Jeremy coaches too.
yeah,
Is the same as Brett.
Yeah.
You hate. It's usually just parent volunteers, and they don't know, and they're just like,
Mhm.
you know,
They weren't athletes themselves. Their kids aren't going to be athletes. They're just out there.
yeah. Which is
yeah,
great, and I
and
think
it's just organized chaos.
Mhm.
I applaud anyone who signs up to coach their kids on volunteer. It takes time, but
Yeah,
yeah, there's a difference between the dad that's doing it, um, because he was asked to, or there was nobody else to step forward, and the dad who wants to actually like instruct the kids and make them better. I mean, how it is. They're going to get in the middle school and high school, and if you have athleticism, like you're going to want to play football. Um, whether you're a starter or you're going to sit on the bench. Like if you're an athlete in high school, you're likely to, and you're a boy, you're likely to want to play football. So I mean,
mm-hmm.
if they can learn now, that only helps them.
Mhm. Maybe
Well,
helmets.
understanding the game, it's half the battle.
Yeah,
Brett is here to teach them how to play.
He was so good. I mean, he's smart. He was a good football player.
I was a good football player. I wasn't as good as Kurt, but I didn't like hitting was my issue. I would rather
But yet your boys
not.
all like hitting.
Well,
And
my boys are bruisers, but
Yeah, I can't believe flag. I feel like we should just throw them right on into tackle.
no, they're too young. Their brains are a little jiggly right now.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's
Keep those
what's going
helmets on.
on. And of course we have baby number 4 coming here in 4
A month.
weeks, we think.
Yeah.
3 to 2.
Yeah, I thought it's like, aren't we like waiting for this call?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. We
Yeah,
can like have a child.
we're on the countdown, and
Okay.
so
I didn't
I
realize
don't
it was
know,
that close.
feels different this
Yeah.
time on number 4. It's kind of like, are you ready? Are you not? I mean, sure, we're ready.
I mean, you've done it a time or two. You're okay.
We'll figure it out. Not a lot of stress, at least on like making sure everything's perfect.
Mhm.
And I've
What's
been
the
to the
actual due
hospital
date?
enough.
What could you be stressed about, Brett?
No,
He just
I
shows
mean,
up.
it's just different than like your first or second. You want to make sure it's all absolutely perfect and right, and we got time for
That's
that.
what you're worried about on your 4th? That it's perfect and right?
No, not on number 4.
Oh,
No,
I
he
was
don't give
about
a
to say, by number 4,
crap
you're just
now.
like, whatever.
He's
No.
like, bring that kid home. We're
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
I mean, by number 4, I was just like begging them to get that thing out of me.
Right. Yep.
Totally.
So
When's the actual due date?
the 20th of
Oh,
November.
okay. So
Oh,
she could
Oh,
literally be born on anybody's birthday.
yeah,
Yeah.
still a little ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we've
Okay.
got a lot of November birthdays.
yeah.
Yeah, November's a busy time in our family.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Also, the 10 months before November must be a busy time. Brett's consistent.
stack it all in there.
Mine are all the same time. Well, except for Memphis. Mine are too, though.
I'm aware. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Usually right around our anniversary.
It's very telling.
Very.
So
Yeah.
that's it for me. But Kelly was telling me
Okay.
the other day, though, that she thinks that she's succeeded in getting all of her children to commit to vote. Who they vote for, we'll find out. Maybe, maybe not. But
They're definitely all registered to vote. I
yeah,
have confirmed, and I have confirmed that the two who are out of their jurisdiction because they are in college are also have already requested their absentee ballots, and
Go ahead and fill it
so
out for them.
they go directly to them, and I am just big on educating them on the policies so that we hopefully
So
can help them.
Jackson will be registered in
Jackson is
his
a
state.
Tennessee resident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah, so
he
he's down there, and so he will vote in Tennessee. I just was asking him yesterday, actually. I don't know if they have early voting. Um,
I thought
I
everybody
know
did.
you guys all do in North and
Yeah, we
South Carolina.
do.
We don't. It's only like you can mail in and drop off your mail in early, but like we don't have early vote like you
Dude,
guys do.
I'm about to walk to mine.
I like to wait in line and get my sticker and
I'm about to walk to mine, do mine here after this.
Okay. Well, yeah, so since our we just thought we would dive right into our first public foray and address the elephant that may or may not be in the room.
listen, I
Um,
planned my outfit to be very patriotic.
I am proud of you. That's very cute. Planned mine to be my favorite color, which is black.
well,
Normally I would, but I thought I'll be red, white, and blue, and I will go for the theme.
There you
Brett,
go.
I feel like, is very Americana. He went for the theme too.
Brett
Kurt's
is, yeah.
obviously we know who his side he is on.
You you just caught me in the middle of a work day, so this is what
Yeah,
I wear to work.
Yeah.
blue
Um,
collar.
so instead of like talking about the normal things about the election, which is just like the normal blah 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 about
Yeah.
whose side feels like they're better, what about like, do we feel like it's a little more or a little less unhinged this time?
I,
So like, where are people's mental capacities happening
I think
for coming up to the election?
I think it's probably segmented, but I think as a whole, people are a lot less fragile than they were 4 years ago. Um, I think a vast majority of people have hardened during COVID and become a bit more mentally sound. But then there also is the fringe. There is a whole group that is just, I think, that's never recovered from the last election, or even the 2016 election, probably 2016 election, then all the way through COVID. And those people are just never going to be saved. I think they're gone. They're always fragile. They're gone. They're fragile minded people who cannot be saved at this point.
Are they still wearing masks?
Some of them,
I do
there are
see
some
people
people still
still
masked.
wearing masks.
It's really sad to see. I mean, their humanity has been stripped from them, and they have no dignity left.
Alone in their car with a mask on.
It's sad. No, really. I mean, it is sad.
Like what?
It's human.
Kelly and I
It's
passed
sad.
somebody the other day when I was in Pittsburgh with a mask
I'm like, I'm confused. Like you're in your car. I mean,
And
by
and, and
yourself.
it's been a minute.
those are the people that, like, the people who are still, anybody who can still sit and watch the Mockingbird media and let their emotions get enthralled by that those are the people I'm talking about. Those are the people they're just gone. They're never coming back. They're always going to be manipulated by the mass media. Not going to have any original thoughts of their own. They're not going to go research or study anything. And I think those people are probably mentally a little disturbed. But I think mostly people are pretty sound of mind. I think people are all kind of banding together, whether they like the candidate that they're going to vote for or not. They just want life to get back to normal, and they want
Yeah.
they want cheaper groceries. They want to be able to afford things again. They want to be able to make money. They want to have closed borders. I mean, it's just like all common, basic ideals that everybody, I think, is agreed upon right now, from what I've seen in my, you know.
Yeah, I think it definitely feels different to me. Like I know that last time was in the middle of like the COVID nonsense. So certainly some of us felt stronger, or everybody felt very strongly about like pro lockdown, anti lockdown, all of the whole thing. So it just felt like everybody's anxiety level was already like, dialed up. And maybe it's because I don't watch like television. Like I hear people say, "Oh, there's all these political ads." I don't even see them because I don't watch traditional news media or television. I don't know. I'm sure it's happening because they're spending
Hmm.
gajillions of dollars on freaking advertising or
Yeah.
direct mail, but it doesn't feel like it's as like dialed up as last time. That's for sure.
I think the majority of people are kind of like you though now. I mean, just look at the statistics on how many people tune into shows at night anymore on cable television. How many people tune into sports events? Like a lot of people do not get their news. They don't even get their entertainment from traditional sources as they did 4 to 8 years ago. And
Yeah,
I think that's a part of it. Why people are a little bit more calmed down. There's probably a good lesson in that.
right.
I think it
What about
calmed
on
down
social
after.
media?
Well, social media is still insane, but I think since they switched the ticket and it's no longer Biden Harris and now it's Harris as the
Harris Biden.
leader,
There's Walsh.
Oh, Walsh.
yeah,
That's it.
whatever his name
Sorry.
is. They both sides. Well, I mean, not the left has really calmed down because I don't think that they are behind her. They don't believe in her like they did in Biden, so they're not coming for the right as hard as they were. They're kind of hoping that this whole thing will just go away, I think. They don't want to draw too much attention to the fact that, it was done in such a way,
But
under the veil of night that we just
but
switched
they still
candidates
they,
without going through proper, process.
they still plan on
So,
occupying the government though.
yeah, now after the election, depending on what the results are, I think it will be potential insanity, but right now it kind of feels like the calm for the potential storm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But of course, my social media is going to be catered to what I search for. So all I see is,
That's true.
Trump
People
supporters.
Yeah.
they have
How
silent
about
people.
talking to people though, like from the other side? Do you talk to anybody from a differing opinion?
I, I'll
Yeah.
say this morning I had you know how baristas are. I was at a coffee shop right around the corner in a high-rise building um, where I'm building out a restaurant. Anyhow, uh, two baristas. You know how baristas typically a little bit more kind of liberal, left-leaning type of guys. And the barista, he was like, "Oh, I love that hat." I was like, "Thanks. I'm actually about to drop this brand, part of a larger brand, yada yada." He was like, "Oh, it's awesome, man." He's like, "Come bring a card back when you do." I would have never thought this kid would have enjoyed this hat. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a.
Did you stereotype your barista?
I did.
Why
I
Yeah.
why are baristas
I
like
completely did. I mean, um,
make baristas great again, Kurt?
yeah, I
Yeah, make
was
baristas great again.
pleasantly shocked at that.
A lot of the left has come to the right side, though. I mean, I think that everybody, you just can't help but love Trump and hate Kamala. I don't know.
True.
Like,
That's
I feel
true.
like everybody's jumping ship and going over to the Trump
Well, I
side.
think it's just become such an economic battle more than anything. It's become
Yeah,
such
I mean, he was at
economic
the Steelers
security.
game last night in Pittsburgh. They cheered for him. He was serving French fries at a McDonald's in
Yeah.
Philadelphia. I
Classic.
mean, I'm sorry, but you can't help but love the
No, I
guy.
know. That was the best photo op I've seen in years. Even if it was completely staged, I don't care. It was still a great photo
Oh
op.
my God, it was the McDonald's.
It was
I thought it
great.
was great.
Oh.
But I did, Kelly. I did talk to somebody. Well, you had stepped away, and I got caught in a conversation with somebody who we uh very often try to avoid politics with.
True.
And they confronted me about who I would be voting for. And I said, of course, we know who I will be voting for. And she wanted to know what I thought would happen when he doesn't win the election and her candidate does. And will all hell break loose? And I said, I think either way, there's going to be some people who are very upset, and you don't know what's going to happen. But she said, well, because your side is just so crazy and they're going to start a war. And I said, well, I don't know why you think my side is so crazy when my candidate has had 3 assassination attempts and yours has had none. And she said, that's because your side's so crazy. And I
Yeah.
no, I think it's your side that's so crazy that's attacking my side. It seems like clearly the rhetoric that is, because she only watches CNN, so the rhetoric that she is being told is that we, are the attacker and coming after them, but like the two, what reality is and what they're being told is so drastically different.
Those are the people I was literally referencing earlier, and it's sad, but they can't even process that thought that what you said. We're the
Right.
attackers, yet we're being attacked. It's like
Yeah.
that doesn't compute because they're so mixed up from years of propaganda and years of just mental abuse, really, from their side, just twisting everything. I mean, it's like it's the land of opposite, right? We live in an upside
Yeah.
down world, or those
Yeah.
people do. Those people live in an upside down world. Everything is opposite of what it actually is, and I never see through it.
Well, and I
But at
think
her
what that's
core, sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
no, I said that is what I feel like leads to stress. Like people that talk about their like being so stressed out by political, like like super anxious coming up to the election. Like I don't know, I don't feel any anxiety about it,
Mm-mm.
but I think that it's because if you spend so much time like in wrapped up in that like constant
Yeah.
feedback loop
Mm-hmm.
that it just naturally, like, remember back when they had the COVID tracker
Mm-hmm.
and they were like tracking deaths,
On
and then they
CNN.
were like, why is everybody so anxious? And you're like, because you're literally tracking dead
Mm-hmm.
on screen every day. And it was like tick tick tick, and it's like, if that's all you watch, I
Yeah.
think that's probably why you feel so much more anxiety than some of us who are like, oh, I'm just out here like doing my thing.
Yeah, and if we may even just talk about that tick mark, it always goes back to who's footing the bill here. So why did we have a ticker? We had a ticker because the pharmaceutical companies are the main sponsors for CNN and all these major networks. That's why they had the ticker, so they could scare people, get people anxious enough to then buy their drug. And it's like, it's very similar in politics, and Brett can probably speak on that better than I can.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it's
mean,
like creating the problem.
I think a couple ways to unpack this, but in general, I think anxiety around elections or politics is generally derived from a level of ignorance towards um, the role of government, how elections are even held, and like what it is that these people even do, whether it be a president or congressman or woman or state, local elections. Like, what do these people even do for you? And so, if you haven't spent the time to understand simple concepts that you learn in high school, like the 3 branches of government, Kurt would say there's more than 3, but we'll start with the 3. Then you can get, in a federal election, with a president, you can get very caught up in, uh, what one human being as our president, and don't get me wrong, it's the highest office in our land, but what are their abilities to affect change or not affect change? And if you ask the majority of people who you're voting for in this election, they'll probably give you an answer. But then if you ask them, well, what do you think the chances are, of either party, whatever they stand with, to gain majority in the House or in the Senate, they wouldn't have a clue what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And wouldn't understand that you can have a Kamala or a Trump in the presidency, but depending on the makeup of the House and the Senate, like their ability to actually deliver on a lot of their campaign promises really ends up in Congress. And so I think you can create a lot of anxiety there. On the social media aspect, more and more people are getting their news from social media. And we all know how social media works. I mean, we're doing a podcast here, maybe an hour long, maybe 30-minute long, whatever it may be. But social media is gonna take, um, a snippet of this conversation, and it will be a 15-second, 30-second clip on social media, and it will be used one way or the other, right? Positive, negative, depending on the view, and people take that, and they, on TikTok or on Twitter, and they'll screaming through. And as Tara just said, depending on what you like to see, you're going to see more and more of it in the algorithm. And so you're going to be led down a path that, like, Donald Trump's going to ruin the country or Kamala's going to ruin the country, and basically enforce whatever bias that you already have. Some statistics on this. So here is, TikTok is really interesting. So, which is the leader. So this is
Graphs.
percent
Love,
of
love.
each social media site's users who regularly get their news from social media. TikTok in 2020 went from 22%. These are people who have said already that they get the majority of their news from social media. So in 2020, it was 22% on TikTok. Okay. And in 2024, it's 52% of
Wow.
people who say they get their news from social media. 52% say they get it from TikTok. Facebook also 48%. Twitter 59%. You start seeing that
Is that by demographic? Is there an age demographic on that?
the demographics are interesting. So let's take TikTok for an example. Men, TikTok 36%, women 62%, which
Now,
is a flip when you go to Twitter/X now. Men 64% on X, 35% of women on X. And as you go through, then you can really see, this is from Pew Research, and I'll put it in the notes. You'll see the demographics, and I talk about often the shift that we're having, not just in this election, but really it started in 2020, the shift away from the boomer generation being the largest voting bloc in the country, and you're seeing the millennials and Gen Xers, and I don't know all the Gen and what we call ourselves these days, but you're seeing that those voting blocks are now outweighing the boomer voting blocks. And then when you start taking into account the percentages of people that are now using social media as their main media source, here 65 plus age group, TikTok 4%, X 7%. 65 plus, the largest they get is from Facebook and YouTube, which is respectively 15 and 16%. And it starts going up from there as you get into the 50 to 64 age, 30 to 49 age, and then ages 18 to 29. Use social media across the board, but actually the largest group is ages 30 to 49, use all of the social media channels: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Reddit, all above 35% for each one of them. So you can really start honing in and saying, well, if you believe that there's an anxiety or mental issue across the political spectrum today, you can really start honing in on, like, what demographic and age group
is being affected,
is
and,
being
and
affected.
where are they getting their news from?
And right, and then you can see,
Yeah.
well, where are they getting their news from? And so I don't have all those answers, but you can start layering in all these different anecdotes to figure out, if the age group of 30 to 49 is the most anxious
Yeah.
about this election,
Mhm.
one way or the other, and you're looking at the amount of social media that they're using, then you can at least hypothesize that, um, social media has a big influence, not only in this election, but in future elections as it continues, on a, election basis or yearly basis where people get their news from.
Now, I would say, I think the real conversation then is this a good thing or a bad thing? And because ultimately, do we not want the news source out of the hands of the corporatists and the globalists, right, who control all the media? And isn't journalism, like in its most pure form, citizen journalist, right, where it's unadulterated by the your higher up or the corporates? So is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And then isn't it up to the end user? Isn't it up to us to then take all these different news sources and interpolate what the truth is?
I like the word interpolate.
Interpolate. Well, yeah, you're seeing
Yeah,
this
I
with
think that's
Elon.
right, Kurt. And that's what, it's interesting, like Brett said, that statistic that like the demographic that we're all in, we are on all of the platforms, and it's sort of like the argument for free speech, right? Is that like those of us who believe in all free speech, regardless of whether you agree with what the person is saying or not, like the, free speech absolutist type argument, more information is better because then you get to pick and choose what you want to, take as truth or not truth. You get to hear, varying opinions and sides. So there would be, based on that, like an argument to say that if that demographic is actually getting information from 10 different sources on the regular, and they may still actually watch traditional media in addition to all of that social, like, are they more knowledgeable about the issues?
Or do they have more information to then interpolate, right? They have more
Right,
information to pull from and say, all right, what's bullshit? What's fact?
right,
Like,
I mean, it's kind of two separate issues. Like, obviously, more competition, better, right?
right.
Kind of the fundamental, um, of the marketplace and in our country, um, and legacy news media has, kept it to a few outlets, and all of which are, I think, highly biased one way or the other. And you're seeing that in the viewership, and you're seeing that even in the commentary in these kind of staged panels, right? Like the discourse, they're having horrible discourse while talking about the horrible discourse of any one candidate, and I think it's I think it's interesting to watch. But the other aspect is the way that these algorithms work within these social media networks, right? Is it's based on your preferences, and you want it that way, to some extent. But it does concern me that long term it creates kind of like this isolation
echo
from
chamber.
the counter argument,
Right,
and
right,
and so it's really on you as the user, that you have to appreciate that when you get onto these social media networks, that like you're the customer. Don't forget that, because things are being thrown at you,
Hmm.
um in the same way that somebody would market to you,
Hmm.
right? Like, to sell you something is the same way a lot of these algorithms are working. Now, it may not directly correspond with an ad that you're going to get. It often does, but it may not be in the same sense politically. Like, they're not getting an ad to say donate to, XYZ political campaign. But the people behind those postings are certainly trying to drive a certain agenda. And so it doesn't, it concerns me long term that if social media is where you're getting your news, and social media is more algorithm driven than the news that you're receiving or your perception of what's real, could be severely altered if you isolate yourself, right? If you don't talk to an opposing opinion. And for me, coming from, a political space, like what's important, regardless of whether you agree with somebody or not, is having a level of empathy to appreciate like where they're coming from. And I think it's that lack of that you see this kind of strong division in the country. Um, and I agree to the earlier part though of what we were talking about, like are people more or less anxious this go around? Well, let's take a step back. Like we've already had a Trump presidency. So, if you're on one side and you believe that he's the enemy, it's like, well, he's the enemy that you know, um, versus the first go around in 16 where we didn't know what kind of leader this guy was going to be. We didn't know the policies he was going to have. Um, and so, it's like third time around. So you like,
Yeah.
you, you like the guy, you don't like the guy. And,
He's
you're
been around a minute.
like your friend
Yeah.
who hates him, you're like, okay, cool. Like, I get
Yeah.
it. You don't like
He's
the
gonna
guy.
he's gonna be a dictator. It's like, well, he already left office after you guys
Yeah.
cheated on an election.
And,
Yeah.
Like,
and you can
uh,
say the same for Kamala. Like, I mean, there's a reason that she's getting a lot of criticism around like, would she have any policies differing Joe Biden? Um, and she hasn't really answered that question, even though she's been asked many different times by many different outlets. And some of it is like pretty smart on her point to just not really answer that question. Like people were displeased with Joe Biden primarily because he was getting old and didn't seem to be fit anymore. And losing confidence from the Democratic side that you'll lose an election simply because this guy can't give a coherent sentence anymore. And so, when they did the big switcheroo, like Kamala just has to step in and say, I'll just be an extension of what, the Biden presidency was. And a lot of people on the left like the Biden presidency. And she's also a
definitely.
well-known commodity. It's not as if, while people who just paid attention to politics maybe don't know much about Kamala, but I mean, she's been a politician for the majority of her career. And so to some extent, like again, what you're going to get. You're going to get a politician with Kamala, and you're going to get, a Trump if Trump wins. Like,
You're gonna
and
get
I don't know how to categorize Trump, right? But you're going to get a Trump, and we already had him for
Yeah.
4 years, and then he sat on the sidelines for four more, and here he is again. So to some extent, I think that's probably a reason, if not a majority reason, why the discourse is slightly different this go around.
Yeah.
It's like both of these people are known commodities, and you may not like the outcome, but you do kind of know what you're going to get.
Yeah, we've experienced both. And it's got to be the first time in history this has ever happened, right? That we've already
100%.
sat through essentially both candidates.
The first time, like, yeah, right. Well, it's not the first time a president has run non-consecutively.
No, but I mean, it's the first
But
time where you can look at both candidates and say, okay, they've both sat in the White House before, so you know what you're going to get one way or
Yeah.
the other.
Well,
yeah, true. I mean, I mean,
the
it's
left's
definitely the
argument.
first time they've installed a new candidate like
Yeah.
8 weeks before an election.
Well,
Like
yes,
that's
that
That,
That was
too.
a
it's
new
the
one.
first
But
time there has been an unelected Democratic candidate. She's
mhm.
unelected.
yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
but I mean, so much of that's it's
Not
semantics anyhow.
surprising.
Like
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
doesn't.
I wouldn't say semantics. It should have been, there should have been a conversation about it that was never had. And it was just, but that goes back to people not understanding the systems of government,
Yeah,
um, how they're supposed to operate, what their vote actually counts for, how their vote is supposed to be affected really locally and state-wise before federally. So it's like,
right.
people are just ignorant. Like we've entered we've entered the part of an empire, right? Where we're at we're at the bread and circus part, right? Because shit is going so bad everywhere else. We're spending too much money militarily. Our monetary value is shrinking. Inflation's through the roof. So it's just like people are ignorant. They're dumber than they used to be, especially in political matters. And They just bread and circus it until they get what they want. It's kind of where we're at.
Bread and circus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was, the analogy there is that was part of the Roman games, the gladiator games, where they would use them as a distraction a lot of times. And this is a lot of things people don't know. So they would cut off the meat supply to the city, right? When things were going really bad. And then they would host games. They would host gladiator games, and then they would give out free bread, and they called it like bread and circus. They would give out free bread to the plebeians, essentially, just to quell their desire to uprise. So they would enter.
So like full on Hunger Games.
No, it's the NFL. It's more like it's like all these distractions to keep people quelled, to keep people from getting upset about.
But I mean, that is the Hunger Games. Like the quarter quell and the whole thing. Come on now. Nobody else? Hunger Games?
Yes, I don't think it's quite Hunger Games yet, but
It's totally. Okay. Apparently nobody's a big fan as I was.
Apparently not.
yeah, actually, I already watched.
You guys never read them? You never read the Hunger Games?
I never read them. I watched them. They're okay.
I never read them. I watched the movies.
I watched the
Yeah.
first
Good movies.
movie. But
Oh my gosh.
But no,
it's
Tug,
not my genre of choice.
but no, I guess my
I mean,
actually going back,
crazy read.
if we may, because this is, I think, is an important and what I think, if anything, adds to the stress and then also the deterioration between male and female right now, right? Because there's a big gap, especially in the younger generations. You're really seeing this, and I think it's almost reflected. It's reflected in like the voter logs, like women who are unmarried tend to go a certain direction, right? Than women who are married, and then men who are unmarried go the complete
The
opposite.
motherless cat lady?
They go the complete opposite direction. And isn't that kind of an interesting reflection of where we are at societally? Because it's like you can tell who is where their heads are at. And if they're so far apart, how are they ever going to come back together? And I think there's an agenda at that to almost make man and woman resentful of each other, especially in the younger generations.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with that because I think that's generally, if you step back, I mean, I think there's for many generations been like an attack on the nuclear family.
Yeah.
And, that is another point is that if you have, people on different ends of a spectrum and you don't prioritize anymore the traditional family unit of, mom, dad raising kids, usually inside of a religious community, you just start to break at the fabric of society, and whether you like it or not, and even though there are people who don't fully subscribe to that fabric does keep cohesion. I think that's why you see less anxiety even inside of like religious communities, inside of churches, and Jewish communities, and like usually you actually see less anxiety around this because there's more whole family units involved. Because like church is that, that foundation. Yeah. So. All right. Good topics. Okay, so moving on to our slightly smaller segment, because we don't want to give it all about this, but let's shift into conspiracy corner.
Perfect.
So, given some of the crazy weather of the past several weeks and months, we've had a spate of hurricanes, and some of you have been affected and all of that. And thankfully everybody that we know is safe, but this really begs the giant conspiracy question. And if you do spend any time on Twitter X, you might think, is the weather being controlled?
Do you guys want to weigh in before I just get going?
Everybody has a yes or no here.
This is your corner though, Kurt. I mean,
I've never spent all that much time worrying about it.
So the answer, I think, I don't know who's to know. What I will say is the science has been there to manipulate the weather in many different forms, since the 40s, and they call it many different things. They call it geoengineering, weather modification, cloud seeding, and as they should, because there are various methods to manipulate the weather. So like just with clouds, the first experiments they started doing was electromagnetically exciting the molecules in a cloud, right? So they charge it oppositely of what it is, and that allows the cloud to let the H2O out, to let the water molecules out of the cloud. So they're forcing rain out of a cloud. And that's most well documented back in Vietnam. They used to do it to the Viet Cong to flood them out of the hillsides, right? They would use cloud seeding and electrostatically excite the clouds to create rain. And China does this all the time too. This
I
is
like how you
nothing.
said right, like as if we should know this. Like,
Well,
yeah,
I
right,
think
sure, yeah.
what
Clear
I'm
with all of
saying
this,
what I'm saying
please.
is it's been very very well documented,
Common knowledge.
especially militarily. It's been used militarily for a long time, and that's when you start to say, okay, well, if we can do it and we have the capability to do it, and we've done it for maybe nefarious reasons in the past, is it far-fetched to say we wouldn't do that nefariously again? So I think that is where you have to, as the end user, decide for yourself, is it a possibility or not? When you get into hurricanes, it gets a bit more tricky. But the first here, I got a document here I'll pull up. We just actually celebrated the 70th year anniversary of the first manipulated hurricane, and this comes from the Atlantic Oceanographic and Meteorological. Sorry, there's a lot of was there. Atlantic Oceanographic and Meteorological Laboratory, 70th anniversary of the first hurricane seeding experiment. So basically with hurricanes, it's a bit trickier, but essentially you want to change the temperature at the core. So the first time they did this, they dropped a bunch of dry ice into this hurricane off of the coast of Florida. This is back in 1947. Well, it was already off the coast heading east, right? They dropped a ton of dry ice off of these C-130s into into the center of the eye, right? And it immediately made like a 180 back towards the coast, and it devastated the coast of Florida. So then you look at what just happened with Helene, which was heading a complete eastward direction, and then took a hard, 180 back towards Carolinas. It kind of operated in a similar pattern. So the technology's there. It's been done before, and the technology has been there some 70 years now. How advanced might it be today? And what type of methods could they be using that aren't even well documented or patent? Because a lot of this stuff is patent, and that's your first aha moment.
So the question becomes, isn't the reason that people are trying to understand or control or harness or manipulate hurricanes because they want to
Dissolve them.
decrease the effects of
Yeah.
hurricanes? So like, isn't that one of those like mitigation measures
Yeah.
that we have been trying to solve? So the question becomes, is it possible that, I mean, that is also fairly well known, but
Yeah.
is somebody nefarious making them worse?
I think this goes back to, and I've got this theory, and it really applies to everything and everyone, that no matter how well intentioned something starts out, it eventually will become corrupted because of human nature, whether it's
Right.
greed, power, whatever it is. Eventually, it will be corrupted. So, sure, this probably started off very well intentioned. Oh, we want to dissipate a hurricane. We want to reduce it, right? But who gains the profit from a bigger hurricane, a more devastating hurricane? And I think that's where you always got to follow it. I mean, follow the money tree. Who's going to profit from a bigger hurricane? Is it, I don't know. Is it insurance companies? Um,
Nope.
no.
No.
I mean, is it government entitlements? Are they trying to maybe get a piece of property that they couldn't get their hands on before through buyouts and stuff? A little bit of what's happening in Western Carolina right now.
Okay.
So who stands to benefit from it? I don't know. I mean, it seems awful to bring a natural disaster to a population. But I mean, after COVID, do we really put anything past our own government? I don't.
Probably not.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I think this one is at scale, um, a little far out there. We've got some cloud seeding activities like what you're seeing in Dubai and other places.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well documented.
the but Kurt's right. They've been doing this a long time. Different methodologies, different attempts, some accidental, and but at scale, like what could you really do? I mean, look, yeah, if you took an Elon Musk and he was excited about weather patterns as he is about Mars, I'm sure he could figure out some really cool technology to, in his world, probably prevent horrible catastrophes from weather,
Hmm.
mainly on our southern coastlines. But I think we're
Well,
Yeah.
probably a far ways away. But I do believe that slightly different tack here. But I mean, when we talk about weather manipulation or artificial kind of weather patterns, in the world I live um, in energy, I mean, there's been a healthy amount of science done around even like local weather patterns, urbanization, and the weather patterns you see in places of urbanization, the weather patterns you see down at the coastlines, which,
from infrastructure.
well, from infrastructure, from shipping lanes,
Hmm.
from look at these vastly populated cities, and I mean, this is documented and will continue to be, I think, more thoroughly documented. Heat island effects and things that occur, right, as our civilization grows. And I don't put this into I'm not going to go off on climate change, because I think the term and the word is so polarizing. I think it's like, if you generally just want to think about natural effects, you see it in your everyday life, and so, like, when you think of manipulation of weather, like, I think of you know humans living, and the manipulation we have on weather patterns, locally. This is taking hurricanes like off the table, but there is something to be said though around, in the Atlantic. And studies have shown we've have, increases in surface temperature and increases in temperature of the ocean. Now, I'm not going to argue with whether that is, a trend that's naturally occurring, or whether that's a trend that's occurring through climate change or human activity. But there was an interesting thing that occurred with the cargo freight shipping lanes over the Atlantic. And for the last decade, we've been regulating their emissions. And so, uh, regulating them to the point where the sun was able to hit parts of the Atlantic more over these last few years than it ever has before, because these shipping lanes have had, call it smog, emissions right through the fuel that they're using, and they've started to regulate it to where these these clouds are no longer there that used to be there. And so if the clouds aren't there, then the sun's able to touch down and hit the Atlantic Ocean more, and therefore increase the temperature, which can increase the intensity of a hurricane. And so I think there's some interesting things about that as well that are coming into play, that it may not be, let's
Intentional manipulation.
yeah, like it may not be like intentional manipulation of the weather patterns, but like more ignorance towards how weather is even occurring and how hurricanes occur.
Yeah.
And to your point, Kurt, like how did it get all the way, into the eastern mountains of the Carolinas? And like ask the question, like how, first you have to understand how that hurricane is formed, and then what gives it the fuel to keep going, um, and be more educated on that, so you can have like a better opinion on, was this climate change or was this urbanization of our, that helped provide it the steam, the energy it needed, right? Warmer
Yeah.
temperatures as it keeps moving. Like, is it because we built more cities along that pathway? Like,
I mean,
what changes versus a hurricane that would have hit 100 years ago?
yeah.
And we've had
Tara,
them
you
100
look
years ago.
really interested in this conversation.
I think what gets me about what happened in Western North
I'm
Carolina,
not sure if Tara's awake.
I'm here. I'm listening. I'm just
what gets me is
taking
what
it
happened
all
in
in.
Western Carolina was the amount of rainfall that happened after it passed through the rolling plains of North Carolina. I mean, after it passed through freaking South Carolina, North Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, then the amount of rainfall that then happened.
Yeah, well, it ran up and hit a mountain is what happened,
Yeah,
and it cooled, and when it cooled, it dropped all of its rain, and then you're in the mountains, and so that storm died, and when it died, it had so much precipitation built up in it, and it dropped, and this is
And then the
once,
infrastructure failed.
yeah, I mean once in 100 year, and it's actually more than
it's
that,
more than 100. Yeah, it's more than 100
but
storm.
um I forget the year, but over 100 years ago was the last
Last flood.
record rainfall
Yeah,
in that area, and it devastated that area then. Um, and so it's not like we haven't, Asheville hadn't seen that type of rainfall before. It had. This was a new record that was set, um,
not in our lifetime.
but not in our
Yeah.
lifetime, right? And so I mean it poses an interesting question. Like I don't know if it's so much nefarious
Well,
that you should think about, but more of um, you know human humans on Earth and our infrastructure, the way that we live, the urbanization, like does have effects on weather. Like, and I think if you're just a normal person, you can probably appreciate that. And I mean, look at the pictures of like the smog over the city centers in China. Like,
no, and
what
also,
you think that's just dropping from the sky because they're just horribly situated on Earth? Like, no, they're polluting the crap out of themselves, and they've built massive cities, and they have horrible coal plants all around them,
yeah.
and like they're polluting themselves, and they probably have horrible weather there as well.
I mean, you can even see examples of it in America pre-modernization in the great Midwest, when they had the Dust Bowls in the, pre-depression area was because of bad farming techniques, right? And
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
the
And
climate,
so the compounding effect, right, though, Kurt, of all those things, it's like if unchecked, then like, to me, like that's when I think of weather manipulation, that's what I think of. It's like ignorant weather manipulation, but like
yeah,
if we're not being conscious of those things, not only is our health in jeopardy. I love the clean air and clean water, but
yeah,
like, it's the reason why we developed the EPA and other things. But then, storms need energy. Where do they get their energy from, and how do they get more intense once they hit landfall?
yeah,
And if we're not cognizant of that, then we may have we may have stronger, more violent storms. And I think there's an argument that we already are having those, but as they hit landfall, like what
yep.
happens out at sea is a more scientific,
Is
you
it
know,
is it though? Is it really my fault to even question these things, knowing how many nefarious things our government and corporations have propagated on a people? You know what I mean? It's like, well, if the technology is there, why wouldn't they use it after everything that, it's like, is that just a symptom of how much mistrust we have for the elites, whoever we want to call the elites, the corporatists, the governments, the globalists, whatever you want to call them. I mean, there's just like,
No, you're probably. I think you're right. I think that's the point, right? Is it's
You're a
like
government person.
always the what's truth, what's reality, right? Is like there's
Probably
enough
somewhere in between.
distrust that nobody necessarily knows who to believe.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, the science, because that's one thing that pisses me off about when this does come up in conversation. People are like, "Oh, we can't even do that." It's like, take a step back, guys. We can do just about anything, okay? The science is there and it's well documented. So that when people enter the conversation with that like blindfold ignorance against what we as humans are actually capable of, that's where I don't even continue talking because I'm like, well, you're obviously not even educated enough to understand this. So,
Well, Kurt, here's a conundrum question then for you.
Mm.
If you believe in that there's science around weather manipulation, do you believe in the science around climate change?
I think like what you said is a good explanation for changing climate. I think that there is always been a changing climate. It's well documented historically. You have the warmer period of the Roman times. You have a cooling period during what we call the medieval times. So I think that climate change has been well documented throughout history. I just think the way that, like you said, the way people refer to it as has one it had that means one thing in today's political enraged climate. You know, it's like climate change means that we are pumping too much CO2 into the air, and because of that, we're losing our ozone, and we're overheating the atmosphere, and we're having radical shifts between summer and winter. And that's the thing too, is the goalposts always move.
Oh yeah, because I think when I was in high school, it was hairspray, right?
And that's when
Wasn't it? I think it was like the hairspray. We were killing the ozone
yeah,
layer if we had the aerosol
Yeah.
hairspray.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the goalpost does
the
move.
goalpost is
All right,
never stays the same.
we're gonna continue down. I have another topic for future conspiracy corners is um the Army Corps of Engineers, Brett. So
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
I know plenty
well,
about
I
Army
have this
Corps. I
saying
don't
that
know the
like the government
conspiracy
is
around.
always the I don't know that, but it goes back to like infrastructure failing and like the idea that the government is always like the problem and the solution,
Yeah,
and they create the problem and then they create the solution to the problem they created,
Yeah.
which you
COVID.
could argue if you like dive down the Army Corps of Engineers like whole thing. Anyway,
interesting.
we'll come back to it.
That's a
Another
good.
day.
Okay.
I'll have to do some diligence on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Me
So
too. Me too. I'm like the Army Corps. Hold on. What now? Let's write this down.
What? Oh, there's an
All I
entity.
can think about when you were talking about manipulating the weather is Twister, the new Twister movie, where she like drops some kind of something into the
Oh, the
tornado and
particles, the
it kills it.
metallic particles. Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
and it kills it like immediately, it, like dissipates.
Yeah.
I
And
haven't seen that.
they cooled it, or they heated,
Yeah,
they cooled
but
it.
whatever. What
Yeah,
Sean always says, like they in plain sight, they throw this stuff right in our face.
yeah.
Okay.
Hollywood does.
Yeah.
Well, and then that's where that they always do in Hollywood,
Why
but
is
that
that so funny? That's what Sean always
they,
says.
No, it's just that I was like, I'm gonna
We're
shift
not done.
topics
We're
and be
back
like,
at it.
yes.
We're back.
no, but that's the truth of it. And it's like, and if we want to go on a deeper level, it's like, what do you know about space? What do you know about aliens? What do you know about dinosaurs? Nothing that Hollywood hasn't slammed down our
Or
throats our entire existence, and that is
do
where
the
people.
aliens know? Do they know that you exist? Or
I'm sure they do. I'm sure I'm on their registry too. Um,
cloned him. They're studying his brain right now.
I mean, the aliens, according to a lot of people, they've been here for a long time. We're gonna put a pin in conspiracy
Yeah,
theories.
they walk
So
among
maybe
us,
we can
according
go
to my
down that
husband.
rabbit hole.
So
yeah. Put a pin in
All right.
I could go on
Move.
for days.
We
Moving on.
moving on. We're gonna move to our one favorite. So
Favorite thing of the week?
our one favorite is our one favorite thing for the week. Tara, I'm starting with you.
Okay. My favorite thing of the week, I discovered doing immense research on TikTok.
On TikTok. Yeah.
That's gonna be my source for
Yeah.
for everything.
We'll put
because
a link in the show notes.
I am that demographic that gets her news from TikTok.
Yeah, you follow the 62%
I
of
sure
women.
do. Listen, I do go on to regular news sources as well, but I do love TikTok.
But do you?
But I
Regular news sources? Define.
I do a lot of research into regular news sources.
What is a
Like, I
regular
love to
news
watch
source?
like
I think we got to redefine.
That's
do what?
what's the regular news source?
I go on to CNN. I go on to Fox. I go on to the Daily Mail. I read all kinds of
Okay,
articles
man.
on the interwebs, Kelly.
Interwebs.
Yeah. I like
All right,
to
Tara, what's your favorite this
I like
week?
to read my sources.
Okay, what's your one
Oh,
favorite?
but I found this guy on TikTok because I struggle to fall asleep, stay asleep. I actually wasn't searching for him, but of course he popped up in my algorithm. He is a hypnotherapist. And I was telling Kelly about this. He is amazing, and it's just like his videos. So he hypnotizes you. You know, do you want to help fall asleep? Do you need help getting over an ex? Whatever it is, he has his different various topics. I have never actually made it through a full video because he already has me asleep. Like within the first minute, he tells you to, be in a safe space, close your eyes, take a deep breath, fall deeper, sink deeper into your relaxation. And his voice is so soothing. And I'll make sure to link him because I swear to God, if you have trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, you will be asleep before the 3-minute video ends. It is the most amazing thing I have found.
Hmm.
And it has helped me tremendously.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Brett, how about you? What is your one favorite?
My favorite was the rocket catch from Elon. Did I steal it from you?
Yes.
Oh, you
Rocket catch.
can't pick that. You can't one up me on a rocket catch. I mean, did you just start liking Elon? Like, come on.
Still don't trust him.
You don't have to trust the man to recognize his genius. Yeah, so the catching of the rocket, the super heavy, okay,
Super heavy.
also known as the Starship. And so this happened on the 13th of October. It's the largest, most powerful rocket ever. And what made it crazy, I think, for social media, because everyone liked it, whether you follow what he's doing, whether you care for rockets or not. Like, this guy caught the rocket with what they call the chopsticks, and two arms.
Tara, did you not see this?
Yeah.
You're on TikTok.
I have no clue what you're talking about, and I follow Elon Musk. Like,
Oh my gosh.
It's an incredible.
He literally cut the rocket with the chopsticks. Like he took the arms and they dropped down and it just whoop,
Yeah.
and
so
they caught the
Incredible feat of engineering.
yeah, so like
incredible.
some context.
I missed it. I don't know.
This was I believe the fifth launch and landing of the Starship, the Super Heavy, which is basically the booster set. And they've used those fins. I think the previous videos people have watched in the earlier days of these rockets, they almost landed them and then they'd crash and blow up because of all the fuel. But they've landed a couple of these successfully, right? And they've landed them with such precision, either surface or in the ocean, that they were confident enough to see if they could effectively catch the rocket, or not really effectively, they catch the rocket. And the reason why this is important is you got to understand where Elon's trying to go with this. So, he's trying to not only go to the moon, he's trying to inhabit Mars. And he estimates that you'd need like 1,000 of these Starship launches in order to get enough materials and payload up to Mars. And so you have to have a reusable rocket, and not just reusable, but you you have to do it in enough time to that if you're going to send people up to Mars and you've got to deliver them supplies, like you have to be kind of consecutive in the way that you're launching 1,000 payloads up into space. And so this came to like you have to be able to catch it effectively in the same place that it took off, and then have multiples of these things potentially set up. The payload is like 100 to 150 metric tons. You can fit like 100 or more people in the Starship, and if fully assembled, so that's like the rocket and the Starship. So the Starship is like the spacecraft that sits on top of the rocket. It's 100 feet taller than the Statue of Liberty. So like he's launching this thing into space. The Starship, right, disassembles and keeps going on into the orbit, and then he's landing the super heavy rocket back into the same position that it took off, so that they can put a new Starship on it, deal with any damages or whatnot that may have occurred. And another aspect that didn't get as much news in this was the Starship itself. Took off and landed in the ocean, but they were testing some different heat shields with the Starship that I guess weren't, compromised in the last flight. And so they were testing different heat shields that apparently that was also a success in this launch. And so thought that was pretty cool. And with Elon, like this isn't the last cool thing that we're going to see from him. But the reason why I think it's so cool is because it shows you that he's like one step closer to the insanity people think about him, that like he's actually gonna inhabit Mars.
He is
So
amazing.
it's all coming together for him.
If we can
Is
just
there nobody?
Tara, did you
Is
now
there nobody
Google?
piloting this?
Say that again.
Nobody's piloting this?
No,
Not yet.
nobody was on it.
If
It was like a rocket booster coming down.
if we could just break out of the Van Allen belt.
I
Yeah.
literally probably scrolled right past this and just figured it was like they reversed the video.
No, I don't think
this,
it was AI. It was real.
No,
This
I know. I've
happened.
just watched it 10 times from a million different angles. I didn't see anything about it until you just said it.
This happened.
That's
Yeah.
what. So that's the point of the one favor. We're enlightening everybody.
We're enlightening.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
And
Okay,
he's also stumping for Trump in Pennsylvania. And he also
Well,
released
now I've
his
seen a lot of that.
robo-taxi and his self-driving
and the
cars
Optimus Prime,
and his
Yeah.
his new robots, like
the iRobots.
all
Yeah,
within 3
And
weeks
he's
of each
giving
other.
away $1 million a day. I saw that.
Yeah,
he's all over the board right now.
it's pretty crazy.
I gotta say, I think I'm anti-technology at this point. I think just less is better for the human condition. Like, where are we going?
How are you finding your wife on technology?
I'm
So
talking
you
about
think
I'm talking
you love
about
technology.
brain chips and all these things that are supposed to make our life better. But at what cost? I just feel like we need less of it now more than ever. But that's just my personal opinion.
I don't disagree with you. All right, so Kurt, what is your one favorite this week?
Honestly, I'm just happy with the weather finally. It's like for me as a builder, this is the best time of the year to build. I wake up in this season and I'm like excited to do what I do again. Where sometimes in the summer you're like, fuck. It's like just getting out there and sweating and long days. But right now, I don't know. There's just like a sense of just everything's just kind of peaceful and running smooth, and the weather's good. It's hard to be upset, you know. It's like how often right now in the fall you look at somebody and you're like, "How are you doing?" They're like, "Beautiful fall day." You're like, "It is a beautiful fall day," and then you're just both happy and go about your day. It's just, it's just great.
Love fall. Kurt
Loves
loves fall.
fall. But
Love
no, it really
fall.
is the best season to do what I do as a builder. I've always enjoyed it, and it reminds me of why I do what I do.
Cal, sorry I
What's
stole
your favorite
yours.
thing of the week, Kelly?
Yeah, so I actually was gonna do the Elon chopsticks
Yeah,
because
come up with something
I
else.
I felt like it was such a like engineering marvel that we were gonna look back and be like, we watched that, so that I thought that was kind of cool. Okay, let's think. What else is my one favorite of the week? I guess I could definitely go with the Kamala Harris $50,000 for new small businesses tax plan,
Let's hear about
um,
it. I don't know about
which is like
No.
one of the most ridiculous things I am hearing, and it makes me laugh.
it. Is
And
this just
so
black people?
it might be. I don't know.
No, no, no. I heard that. There was like a, oh no, that was a
That's
tweet.
a different program.
Different program.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
different program. We're
Yeah.
gonna have
I was about to go.
definitely constitutionally valid that you forgive startup loans or something
Yeah.
if your skin is a certain color.
I was about to go.
Reparation.
The $50,000 startup deduction tax, I don't even know. She doesn't even know. That's why it's my favorite, because it keeps getting, and again, I get hung up on the technicalities. So sometimes we're, calling it a tax deduction. Sometimes it's a credit. We don't really know. Also, to get any of these things, generally you're going to have to spend $50,000. We never talk about that. Nobody knows. We just talk about all of the free money that we're going to give to people to start businesses because she's magically about small businesses. And being somebody who has been all about small businesses for my entire career, I find it humorous that she just woke up and she can't actually articulate what the $50,000 startup tax credit deduction giveaway, you're getting a check in the mail.
Like what even the requirements are, what like any of it. It's just words right now.
I don't even know. I would have to check if it's even on her website. Did any policies actually make it to the website yet?
She said she has like 80 pages of
She did, but
something.
wasn't that what was copied from Joe Biden?
It was. It was effectively his. It was.
It was his because they found it embedded in the
Yeah. I mean, it's like
code,
it's the DNC,
cut and paste.
policy,
Yeah.
but
I just like it because we just throw big numbers out and people think it makes somehow like,
Yeah.
again, like you're going to get a $50,000 check from the government. And it's the funniest thing ever to me. So, yeah,
yeah.
good
Well, I
luck with
think
it.
it's interesting because I'm like obviously the number sounds attractive, but um, if you're running a small business or you're thinking of starting a small business, you wouldn't expect people to be so ignorantly applauding that credit. And I don't think they are. Like, I don't think actually this has gained a lot of steam for her. Because if you're like, okay, well, you're talking to a demographic in the US that, you could argue is savvy or non-savvy, but you small business, you should have an idea of you're good at whatever you're doing in some level of finance. And so you got to be asking those questions too. Like, it's not, I don't think people are saying, I want to start a new business now. I get this $50,000 and not asking the question, how is it going to come to me? Like, am I just getting a $50,000 check?
Right.
Is this going to be a write off? And if it's a write off, well, I mean, I generally know how those work. Like, it's, I'm going to have to earn money to be able to write off this income.
And I'm going
And
to have to also spend
right. And I'm going to have to come up
$50,000
with the
on things
$50,000.
that I somehow wouldn't otherwise be able to write off. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what's so funny to me. Like if I spend $50,000 starting a new business, generally it's because I bought a new piece of equipment, which according to the tax code, I'm going to get to write off. So why we're just masking it as if it's this magic,
Well,
50 number is so funny to me.
I
Because the
think
only
it's
people that are going to spend $50,000 opening a brand new business on startup costs are large corporations.
yeah.
Nobody else is spending that kind of money on startup costs, which we're talking legal and organizational costs and all that kind of crap. Like,
I mean, I think it's a flop,
it's just
and
so funny.
it's not gaining traction. And the reason you're not getting details about it is, as you know, like this will be a bill passed by Congress, and it will be negotiated, and then it will go to Treasury, and it will take a year for them to issue guidance on how this thing's going to work. And by the time anybody can actually go get said credit, there'll be a revision to it. And by the time anybody receives that $50,000 credit or otherwise, or deduction, Kamala will be out of office. And so like it's a great soundbite. I think it flopped because it lacked any kind of real substance in that demographic who would be using it. And then the functional application of it is like it will be a bill, and it will be negotiated in many different ways. So she can't tell you how it's going to actually look at the end of the day, because she's not necessarily in control of that.
Nor do I think she understands even what
Right.
she's
And
saying,
then
but
and then even if she was, like, Treasury's going to issue guidance on it, and even then that can be controversial and go back and forth a couple times.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know anything about it, but it just sounds like political pandering at its best.
100%. Yeah, it's my favorite.
For sure.
But you're
All right.
right, to a demographic who they don't know what the hell to do with it anyhow.
Yeah, true. Right.
Well, okay, so Tara, we have you being hypnotized, right? Kurt, what were you again?
Fall.
Just
Fall.
just
Kurt
good
like
weather.
fall.
Just living
Just live in good
the
weather.
fall
I get to
weather.
go. I've ridden the Harley almost every day for like an hour after work. It's
Yes, I
great.
enjoyed watching you have a cigarette break on your Harley in front of a mural of
Of
yourself. It
himself.
seemed
I mean, how
very
often do you get to
casual. Just
how
a
often
casual Sunday.
how often do you get to do that, right? I think most people never have that opportunity, so I figured I might as well indulge in it.
That is true. Most people never have that opportunity, nor would they take the opportunity to film themselves doing it.
Yeah, bring
Yeah.
a tripod and set it
I
up.
didn't
And
bring a tripod. I set my phone against a Canon WD-40 that I used to clutch while I got
You
riding.
got the
Old
tripod.
Harley started.
Yeah.
I would have
You
like
got it.
paid for somebody to have been driving by and taking a behind the scenes video of that
Hey, you
occurring
know
in
what?
real time.
It's crushing. People love that video. So
I
many
love
dudes
it.
are like, this is so badass.
Oh yeah.
People are loving it, Tara.
Yeah.
The people
I know.
are loving
As
it.
if I need to
Yeah.
explain myself to you, Tara, about
No, hey,
uh,
guilty.
you know,
But a lot of pictures of coffee. Yeah.
I just love it.
it's art. It's
It's
art.
art. And Brett
Yeah.
loves the rocket ships, and I love tax credits. And this is about summarizing of the four of us. So
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah.
Sounds about right.
Sounds
So we're
about right.
supposed to, are we supposed to pick a winner, Kyle? We're supposed to see who likes who, or this is just what we do?
Oh, I don't think. I think we're leaving the winner of the week to be put in the comments
Got it.
by our raving fans.
Yeah.
Okay.
No winner. There's
By
no
our-
winner. It's
By
just
our
fake.
raving fans.
There's definitely a winner because there's always a winner.
I feel like
Life
I've got
is
a,
always a competition.
I feel like I've got a
Winners and
deeper
losers.
fan base, so I'm probably going to continue to win for a little while.
Okay.
It depends on who's going to listen
Yeah.
to this podcast, Kurt. If you somehow can garner,
Do you love how all three of us at the same time were like,
if you can
I'm
somehow
just, I was,
This is like middle-aged horny women on TikTok.
I
It's not
didn't talk about,
anybody who wants to
I
hear
didn't
you
talk
talk.
about,
you sound like so arrogant
I
right
didn't
now?
talk about
Yeah.
who my fan base was. I just stated that I have a larger fan base. I didn't say the
Yeah.
specifics of who it was. I was just stating facts.
Right.
Sorry if facts
It's
come off
larger fan.
arrogant.
You have a larger fan base. You're so right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
All you need is
Brett can't even put his last name on the screen. He doesn't even want a fan base.
Did you expect the last name to show up? Did you really? You didn't.
the
And And
that.
so our sign off is that you should go do your civic duty and vote.
That's right.
And if you live in an echo chamber or you feel anxious, go talk to somebody off of Facebook. You should also try not to post memes only on Facebook because it makes people dislike you.
Oh,
Memes?
And just saying, like, go have a conversation with somebody in real life, IRL,
Yes,
not
that
on the interwebs.
and that is probably
Makes you look like a dick.
that's probably just the broader macro lesson anyhow, is engage with your neighbors and community. Like people have lost the art of conversation, even in,
Have you seen that new? We'll talk about it next week, but there's a new documentary coming out about just that, where it says like, oh dang it, I just saved it. It's basically like buy in or die, like join your community or die.
well, I mean,
I'll find it.
it's just so
On
true
Netflix.
because so many conversations had over the internet lose their meaning, but if you had it in person, in real life, face to face, in your tone, and you can hear your inflection points, it just comes across way differently.
Yep.
And honestly, you'd be shocked to realize how closely people are actually aligned. Like how we're really not that far apart. We all kind of do feel and think a certain type of way. There are the outliers, absolutely. There's the radicals. But I got to say, I think most people are pretty well aligned, at least who I engage with, outside of my immediate friend group and family, obviously.
we hope you got at least one laugh from our nonsense this week. If you did, leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts or tell us your favorite in the comments on YouTube. Remember, there's only room for one family favorite, and odds are it's not you. Bye.
That's good.
Bray, I'm like, when's your TED Talk coming out?
Seriously. So good.
I can fall asleep to his voice. Just keep talking to me about rocket ships.
Rocket ship.
Wow.
Well, Tara, if you called me
Very
more,
soothing and relaxing.
if you called me more and wanted to talk about geeky shit, I'd tell you. Kelly knows I can go down rabbit holes all over the place.
I like to call you when I'm driving and I don't really want to fall asleep behind the wheel.
I
Brett
mean,
makes me get to all my destinations. I just like sit. It's like listening to an audiobook. And you just wind him up and he goes.
I'll call you,
You get them started on one topic.
Yeah.
I'm rolling.